What's up, everybody? My name is Brad, and today we're here to talk about some books. Shh, it's a secret. We're talking about books. Seriously. I know it's shocking we're talking about books here. But no, seriously, today we're here for a book review specifically. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and dive right into it. Today we're going to be talking about Latinx Screams, edited by Castro Cina Pelayo. It's an anthology of horror. It's put out by Imperial Books. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it came out on Christmas Day last year. So it hasn't been out for a great length of time yet. But one thought kept scrolling through my head while reading this book, sort of like the ticker on the bottom of ESPN, if you watch sports at all. It just kept reoccurring and scrolling over and over through my mind. And that thought was that all of these stories felt familiar, yet refreshingly different at the same time. You know, there was this vague sense of a place we have visited before, but this time around we're getting to experience that place through a different lens. As the title of the anthology suggests, Latinx Screams, all of these authors are Latinx authors, and they get to incorporate their viewpoints and upbringings and beliefs and culture into the horrors of these stories collected here. Again, it's that same thought, it's all familiar, yet slightly different, and I really appreciated the different take, the different viewpoints, and different voices on, what could be considered stale otherwise, the same things over and over again. They didn't feel that way. They felt different and, like I said, refreshing through these different viewpoints that we get for these stories. Now, I will be the first to admit that I can do better in being more diverse in what I choose to read. I do strive to try and read more women authors. Have I mentioned that this anthology is edited by Castro Cina Pelayo? I try to read more people of color. I try to read more from people who are different than me, who have different upbringings and different backgrounds and different viewpoints. I want to read more diversely. One thing I really love is learning about other people's cultures and places where they're from. And, if you can't physically go and visit those places, there's no better way to learn about other people and cultures than by reading what they have to say and what they've written. And that's one of my favorite aspects of this anthology, Latinx Screams, is really the infusion of this Mexican and Latin American sort of folklore and values and myths and legends and beliefs, all collected and infused into these horror stories. I really, really dug that. Having an anthology that is solely written by Latinx authors, being able to tell their own stories in their own words, in their own voice, just really gave this genuine feeling of authenticity to it that you wouldn't have got otherwise. And I really appreciated and had a lot of fun with those, just genuine stories and that really deep feeling of authenticity to all of these stories. Lurking beneath the surface of these dark and bloody, horrifying stories collected here, we really get to touch upon some deeper, more powerful themes within these stories. Strong familial bonds. We get to touch upon racism, the generation gap, technology, tradition, death, and more. And that's one thing I really have come to find about myself, that I've learned about myself, is, I'm all for a horror story just for the sake of a fun, blood-soaked, gory horror story. But I really like these sort of deeper meanings that we can glean from these stories. Something with a bit more meat to chew on, if you will. Horror that has something of importance to say, some fat to chew on. Those are the types of stories that I have come to really fall upon, that I really, really like. Something with deeper meaning beneath the surface. I really like those kind of stories, and there was quite a few stories in this collection that really, tapped that for me in this one. Let's go ahead and we'll talk about all the stories. I'm going to touch upon each one really briefly. I don't want to give anything too much away. I think there's 12 stories in total. I'm going to go ahead and apologize in advance for any butchering of pronunciations of names. I am horrible at pronouncing people's names, so if I get your name wrong, I do apologize in advance. But starting off with the first story in the anthology, Sangria Dermata, I believe is how you say it. I believe that translates to spilled blood or spilling blood, by Hector Acosta. This one was probably my favorite story in the whole anthology. It really kicked it off in a strong way for me. But this story is about immigrant workers toiling away in just this sweltering chicken processing plant. And this inspector has come in because someone found a severed finger in their frozen packet of chicken. And then blood. Lots of blood in this story. Like I said, I think this was probably my favorite story of the whole anthology. Next up, we have a story called Black Sheep by Sarah Davis. This one is about a reporter covering a mysterious vigilante known as the Black Sheep, who's been taking justice into their own hands. The third story, Morning of Teeth by Rios de la Luz, I believe. This one's about exorcism, religion, and children going into the forest, and then the spirits of the forest. That one was a bit trippy and weird, almost cultish vibes to it. The next story, Frijoles by Laura Diaz de Acar. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But this one, I really like this one too. This one is about this family curse that has consumed this family for generations and generations. And the person we're following, they're terrified of this curse coming true upon them. It was a really great story. Next story, Come Play by Sergio Gomez. Two young friends, they go out past their bedtime to hunt some frogs, and they didn't listen to their parents. Their parents always tell you, don't talk to strangers. Next story, and this is probably my favorite title out of all of them. This title just is really dope. The Organo Metallic God. Man, that's an awesome title. The Organo Metallic God by Arisbo Campeche. This one's about witchcraft and some black magic and this magical curing elixir, this heal all, but maybe, it has some detrimental side effects. Next up, Gallon by Richie Narvez. This one's all about the old versus the new, tradition versus technology, that kind of stuff. Abuela, she wants things to stay the same. She wants to keep tradition. She doesn't want change. No one likes change, but maybe change is a good thing, or maybe change isn't so good after all. You'll have to read it and find out. The next story, The Devil Within Me by Bailey Puckett. A young girl wakes up to a reflection that she doesn't recognize. We're dealing with puberty, family history, the monsters and devils within us. The next story, The Throats of Neptune by Monique Quintana. This one's very, sort of abstract and kind of out there. It's about imprisoned mermaids, lullabies, and breaking free. Next up, Behind the Mountain by E. Reyes. This one's about Santa Muerte, and things that are dead and buried are best left that way. This one gave me really heavy Pet Cemetery vibes. I really dug that story. Imperial Slaughterhouse by A.E. Santana. I think this would probably be my second favorite story in the collection. This one's about making deals with demons. And, the old saying, blood is thicker than water. Family is thicker than, anyone else. But blood may not always be thicker in this case. You'll have to read it and find out what I'm talking about. And last up, rounding out the anthology, is Pancho Claus vs. Krampus by V. Castro. This one's just like the title suggests. We have the Claus clan, and I really like the world building around that. Sort of really quickly explaining how Santa Claus is able to do what he does in such a short amount of time. I really dug that. But it's all about the Claus clan versus their arch nemesis, Krampus. So to close out this review, the pages of Latinx Screams feel like they are stained with the blood, sweat, and tears of the authors, channeling their collective voices through the pen, the words screaming to be heard, full of horrors choked with dust and grit, tradition and myth, and even some frijoles in case you have come with an appetite. This has been my review for Latinx Screams, edited by V. Castro and Cina Pelayo, put out by Burial Day Books. I'm giving the anthology 3.5 stars, rounded up to 4 for Amazon and Goodreads. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, and I really appreciated the fact that it was all these Latinx authors getting to tell their stories in their own voice. I really dug that. I really appreciated that. I really want to strive again to do more and be more diverse in my reading this year. Read more from Latinx authors and indigenous authors and people of color and more women and so on and so on. There's so many stories out there to be told and heard. It's really boring to stick in the same niche all the time. People really need to do better at expanding out and trying new authors from other places and cultures and religions and backgrounds and whatnot. I think we'll all be better for it and smarter for it in the long run. Learning more about other people is always a really great thing. But I'm starting to ramble, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Again, this has been my 3.5-star review, rounded up to 4 for Amazon and Goodreads of Latinx Screams by Burial Day Books, edited by the Castro Cina Pelayo. Hope you all enjoyed the review. I hope you check it out. It was a really fun anthology. But thank you all for spending your time with me today. Again, my name is Brad, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.